and he completely undresses this reporter. He's like, it's embarrassing that you have to ask that question. The next day, he took the fucking Texas shot.
I mean, we've seen that happen all the time, right? But
apparently he did the same thing at TCU before he took the Texas A&M job.
And he's just working his way around Texas.
He'll be at Baylor next.
Check this out. I love the pig and rooster in the corner. This is looking good.
Chaucer in the bottom left.
Yeah.
Or official.
I wore my shark shirt for since we're doing trade bait.
Nice.
It's also Shark Week next week. They were giving out fins at the game last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had someone dressed up as a shark in the bird bath.
Yeah. I guess Madsen struck a deal with the Discovery Channel or something.
Hey,
that would make sense.
Whatever we need to do.
T-Row Price, dude.
T-Bro Price. All right, boys, we're good to go whenever.
All right, Dusty, you want to lead it off? Dusty, boys, just by the way, Dusty's kind of like he's our Mike Greenberg, if you want. Leads everything around. He's our
He's big Ernie starting to go greeny teases, yeah.
Are you Chris Mad Dog Russo?
All right, guys. Welcome to another episode of Gary Williams Stole My Lawn Furniture. Today we had two special guests with us, Sean Foy, who you guys have seen on the podcast before, and we also have Brett Ritchie, who is a first-timer on this podcast. Round of applause for those guys. Yeah.
Nice.
We're going to be talking some Orioles potential trades. We're going to talk about the game last night, the Yankees continuing to lose, and we can just jump right into it. You guys want to introduce yourselves, Brett, Sean?
Sean, go ahead.
Cool. Thanks for having me again. I appreciate it. Always a good time to shoot the shit with you guys. Sean Foy, friend of the group, O's fanatic, expert in many things. That's me. Can you guys hear me well? This is the first time I've used AirPods on here, so I can't hear myself.
You're good.
Yeah, you sound fine.
Beautiful.
You sound delicious.
Great intro, Sean. My name's Brett Ritchie, friend of the group, also O's fanatic, expert of none, master of many. So, yeah. Anyway, happy to be here.
Hell yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. You guys want to talk about the game last night? Brian's got something to say already.
I want to first start with how embarrassed myself, Brooks, and Dusty should be. We did our fictional athletes draft, and we left off Kenny Powers. So if anybody wants to shame us, please feel free to do so. That's an absolute inexcusable offense for three baseball nerds who have used those references many a time on a softball field, in bars, or just hanging out in cars. So.
I literally picked that fucking category with that in mind, thinking like, all right, Dustin's taking Falco, I'm getting Powers, and I fucking forgot. Like I picked that at like 9:00 in the morning, and then just I don't know how that just escaped my head between then and the podcast, but yeah,
I award you no points.
Embarrassing.
Like God have mercy on your soul.
It's embarrassing. Nobody should even vote this week. They should just be like, you all lose. You guys all fucking.
Well, Brian tried to take frickin' Billy Madison instead of Happy Gilmore. So.
I did.
Wrong movie.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just got to define athlete.
Yeah. Home runs last night from Gunnar, Cedric, O'Hearn. Grayson pitched great. Kimbrel looked lights out in the ninth. Perez looked great in the eighth. Did you guys watch the game last night? Do you have any thoughts specifically on the game last night?
Did we win?
Yeah, it was just needed. Finally got off the schneid. Great. I mean, the rotation's been kind of a mess for the last week. So to see Grayson not only shove but provide some length was big, and bullpen was good. And Mullins is starting to get hot, which is nice. And just finally, getting off the Schneid's a big one, and hopefully can get a few more this weekend.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I thought the Bro Hearn home run was a big one. Thought we needed that. Kimbrel did a nice job there. CNL, really great job in the 8th. And yeah, it was nice to start a new win streak, as Kevin said last night, right? So 1 in a row. But yeah, that I was tired of watching, 5 losses. So good win. Let's get it rolling.
I mean,
Does this mean that this is the end of Dave Johnson as of yesterday, please?
Yeah, but Ben's back today and
Yes.
tomorrow, and then Saturday and Sunday are national TV games, so it's not a messing.
has he done any other games this year
Yeah,
besides these 5 games?
He's done a couple. I mean, I think they only had him because Palmer got COVID and Ben was
Yeah.
doing the College World Series, so I think they were scrambling. But yeah,
Yeah.
he did like one other series. I don't remember when, but
His record's rough
he's-
right now.
I did think it was kind of funny on the post game show. He definitely leaned into thank God they won, for my sake, because they'd lost 5 straight with me on the call. So I did think that was kind of funny. But yeah, we don't ever need to see or hear him again.
Although Brian, I thought of you. He did give a Mountain Branch shout out yesterday.
Yeah.
He did. Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, you mentioned the O'Hearn home run was big. He's been so good for us the last couple of years, and I've seen. We did a lot of research today for this, for the trade rumors and all that kind of stuff, and I saw a lot of people floating his name out there as a person we would trade. I really don't think there's any way we would trade him. I think he's too valuable to this lineup. Just that left-handed bat that you can put in the middle of the lineup pretty much any night, set it and forget it. I don't really see us moving on from him.
It seems like he knows his role, which is it's like the backup quarterback, knowing that I'm the backup quarterback. Not that he's a backup by any stretch of the imagination. It seems like he knows who he is, where he is in this team, and he's comfortable with it.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best hitters on the team. He's just been like a total diamond in the rough from last year that has kept it going. I mean, I think he is a free agent at the end of the year, so I guess some people assume maybe with him not being a long-term guy, he'd be moved, but I don't. I mean, I'm sure a contender would love a rental bat like him for the next 4 months, but he's way more valuable for us. They've got too many young pieces they could trade that I'm sure they'll hold on to him.
Yeah, and what he's been doing with 2 strikes as well. I mean, they've been flashing the 2 strike stats, but I mean, the way he's hitting the ball and his whole, quote from a year or so ago where he was like, I'm up here now and I plan to stay up here. I mean, you can just see that. He looks like a pro, looks like a vet. He's taking really good at bats. I find it hard to believe that we would move him.
He's
Should
awesome.
we do a Ryan Flaherty comparison here?
Much
boy.
better than Ryan Flaherty at baseball.
Oh boy.
Ryan Flaherty's not my favorite guy. The Yankees lost last night again, 12-2 to the Metropolitans. Judge hit his 30th homer before the All-Star break. Last time he hit his 30th homer before the All-Star break, he had 62 home runs that year. Maybe 63 actually. He's still going crazy, but the Yankees are just on a little bit of a slide too. We talked about this the other day, so it's kind of helping us after we lost a couple games that they were kind of in the same boat as us. Brian's got something to say.
Aaron Boone. Hot garbage.
Yeah, it's been we've gotten kind of lucky that they've also hit a slide. I mean, I think it was a week ago after we kicked our ass on Thursday, we were a half game back and then lost 5 straight, and we're still only a game back. Like it's, both teams are hitting a wall. So I hopefully, we get a couple W's this weekend and they keep their slide going. Though I don't want the Mets to keep. I don't want the Mets to keep winning because I want to take some of their pitchers. So that's a little frustrating.
Yeah. I just noticed in your little name corner, Sean, it says doctor. So I just want to point that out.
It asked what my profession or title was. And I was like, yeah, why not?
I'm no doctor, but I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
Yeah.
last night.
I'm surprised it took to the 10-minute mark for someone to notice.
I saw it. I was gonna let it go.
I didn't see it. There's no way I was letting that go.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into some trades. Let's talk first about what we think the Orioles probably are potentially looking for at the deadline. I would assuming, based on the kind of injury-ridden first half we've had, that we're going to be looking to kind of get that pitching staff back into shape. Do you guys think we should prioritize starting pitching, bullpen? You think they can splurge on a big-time bat? What's your hopes for the deadline?
Why don't we go around the horn? We'll start with Sean and kind of go to Brett, then Brooks, then myself, and then Dusty, you finish it off.
Got it.
I would think at this point the priority is anyone with a healthy arm and a pulse, whether you're a starter or in the bullpen. Ideally, a starter. Like a front end guy would be great, but more realistically, I could see them getting one or two like mid to back of the rotation guys. A month ago, I would have said the priority is the bullpen and, maybe a right-handed hitting outfield or another bat. I think at this point, I mean, if you can get all three, great, but I would think a starter or two and then another bullpen arm or two are the main thing. I mean, the lineup's still really good, and there's some guys in the minors that can provide some pop if you need additional reinforcement there. But yeah, just any and all starters or relievers.
Yeah. This topic got me excited, right? Because I kind of think with the new ownership, we're going to look at like a different deadline. Obviously, we got a really deep farm system, but I would not be shocked to see 2 starters and a pen guy, and then we'll see if there's like an outfielder that is an upgrade, or even corner infield. I love Westberg, but you can just shift him over to second base and move Mateo back to kind of a utility role type of thing. So I think that we're probably going to see 2, 3, 4 players coming into the mix here, if I had to guess. But I think 2 starters would go a long way, especially with all the injuries we've had.
Brett, I want to ask you a question. You had some with the new ownership, a new trade deadline. What does that mean? You think it's going to be earlier for us?
Well, I mean, my thought on that is I think our pockets are deeper, right? So, taking on salary versus like not necessarily bargain shopping or bargain bin trades, but if there's more control with our farm system of like an extra year, these guys that are like 2, 3, 4 years, I still don't think we're going to touch that, right? But like, bigger salary over the next couple of years. Yeah, I mean, I think that's something that payroll, you would think with a couple billionaires in the fold, that's going to look a little different at the deadline and give Elias more flexibility.
Yeah, if they took on someone, now this won't happen, but like someone like Verlander last year who had another year or 2 of a ton of money still on their contract, like I could see them being way more open to doing something like that than they would have been a year ago.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully they haven't done it yet, but I would think all signs point to them having more flexibility.
Brooks, you're up.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first time, right? So we're going to see. And I've said this multiple times now, like with everybody, a lot of people like to bitch on Twitter about our GM not making any moves and how he was just so dumb in the offseason for not planning for 3 people to get Tommy John this year. I mean, how could you not see that, right? The first time he was able to actually go out and do something after new ownership officially kind of took over when Angelos died, he goes out and gets Corbin Burns. And he goes out and gets Kimbrel. I believe those were both after the Angelos. Kimbrel might have been before that. So, I mean, we've already seen a glimpse of it. Like he's willing to go. I mean, he went out and got a Cy Young, top 3 Cy Young challenger every year. So you've already seen the willingness. So this is going to be the first true, like, all right, let's see what they're going to do here. The hard part is right now, and it's hard to talk. I know we have to start talking about it now, but it's hard to talk about right now with so many teams are bunched up that we don't know who's going to be a seller yet. And I don't think teams know if they're going to be sellers yet, or certain teams at least. So it's hard to know who's actually available to go after. I mean, it's like the whole supply and demand thing. Like a lot of people on Twitter, like, go get it now, go get it now. It's like, well, I mean, they can ask for an arm and a leg right now, but I mean, if we get closer to the trade deadline and they know they're out of it, and more guys start and a couple other teams get out of it as well, and they start becoming sellers, I mean, the pendulum swings a little bit in our favor. So that's why I just don't understand. Orioles fans they're ridiculous sometimes. At least some of them are. But yeah, I'm on the same boat as you. Obviously, we got to go find pitching. I'm looking at Kramer's stats from Statline from today: 4 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 Ks so far. I think he's still in. Mayo just hit his 20th home run.
I think he just came out like a minute ago. So I just happened to see on Twitter. But
was that about his final?
Yeah, I think he was 4 1/3. Like, not a great line, but I think he threw like 80 pitches, which I think is probably what they care about. So I'm sure he'll be up next week.
Yeah, but and we've all seen, right? Like, Dean's a lot better than this rehab assignment. So he's either figuring it out, working on something, or not healthy, right? So, like, we've seen him pitch, he's a back end of the rotation, guy that we could get excited about to go to Camden Yards and watch or turn on, the TV and catch the game. So we'll see what's going on.
Yeah, I get a little frustrated, and I'm sure I could probably find it somewhere. Like, I wish we could get a little bit more in depth about how these starts are going. We talked about it Tuesday. Like, I'd like to know what his velo is. I'd like to know, like, is his command not there? Is that why he's getting hit around right now? Is his stuff just not there yet? Where are we lacking right now? Or is it just like, I don't know. I just a little bit more detail would be nice. I just don't know what it is. So without actually going to see him, without actually going to a game to watch him pitch, I just don't know. I can't find anything in terms of like anybody saying anything or obviously video. So
yeah, sounds like
I haven't seen much about it.
Yeah. You want more analytics, you want more data, and it's hard to find when you go into minor leagues. I got 3 things on this. One, I think Brooks, we all know, needs to stay off Twitter. It's killing him. Let's start there.
My blood pressure is going to be a problem.
Second, to your Twitter point, fans are going to be fans, and they're going to want to have impulse over knowledge base and patience. And so
sure.
I don't read too much into it. Now, while you can read it, I just don't give a shit personally. We didn't get to this point because we made impulse decisions. We got to this place with this new regime because the previous regimes made impulse decisions. But with the new ownership group in regards to this trade deadline, this is our first experience with them. So we really don't know what to expect. And anyone that says they know what to expect is just stupid. So I don't know exactly what to expect. I do want to see a reliever. I do want to see a starter. I don't know if I want a closer per se, or maybe a setup man or a long relief guy. Maybe Suarez, if we get a starter, could become that long relief guy.
Yeah. I mean, eventually you would like him to go back into that role, right? I mean, it's another Band-Aid that we're throwing on something right now, and he's done a great job up until his last couple starts. But
I think the great thing is that we have so many options. Like, we can, like Brett mentioned, we could go out and get a corner infielder, move Westberg to second. We could potentially use Mayo as that corner infielder. We could use Jackson Holiday to get him come back up, or we could trade Mayo and Norby for some other crazy big piece that's out there. The amount of options that we have is awesome, and hopefully this new regime will use those weapons to their advantage. And if they don't, especially offensively, I think we're kind of set. But yeah, like you guys have said, I echo that. We need a pitcher. We definitely need a starter. A bullpen guy would be nice as well.
Yeah, I guess it should be said too that Jackson was reinstated, I think Tuesday, I believe. Okay. So he's back playing again. I don't think we mentioned that on the last one.
We're just going to go through and talk about some of the bigger names that are rumored to be on the market. Obviously, these are rumors. Take them with a grain of salt. I don't know if Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is actively being shopped by the Blue Jays, but these are names that people are throwing around in the Twitter spheres and the inner circles. Pete Alonso, I think he's a guy who's a great player, but doesn't really make sense. We've already got a plethora of good first base options. Just doesn't really fit what I think we need. Jazz Chisholm, Jesus Luzardo, Mason Miller, Luis Robert, Paul Goldschmidt, Randy Arozarena. I mentioned Vlad Jr., Bo Bichette, Taylor Ward, JD Martinez. These are huge names that are potentially on the market. Any of these names jump out to you? Why you think we would want them? Why you think that they might not make sense for us?
I think we do the same thing. Brett, why don't you start? Then we go to Brooks. Then we go to me. Then we go to Dusty. Then we go to Sean. Kind of around the horn.
Yeah.
Keep doing around.
Got it.
Yeah, sure. Do you want to stick to position players mostly here, or pitchers too? I mean,
So,
I
up
can
to
just
you. Talk about whoever you want, man.
Yeah. So basically, I think, like we were talking about earlier, as we shake into the next month here, we're going to see like who's still in it. With the new format from a few years ago, a lot of teams are still going to be in it. So, they might not be sellers till the 11th hour, but Arozarena obviously is attractive, although he's under team control and he's having a terrible start, but almost everybody thinks he's going to get it going. Right. And that guy's a postseason stud. So to add him, for me, if you're going to add in the outfield, it's like, are they better than any of the, 5 guys we can run out there right now? And like, while he's not performing like that down the stretch, yeah, I mean, he's somebody that you take a look at, and then there's team control there. So what do you have to give up, right? And it's interdivision, which is a big one. Other names like Jazz. Jazz is kind of interesting for me too, right? Like he hasn't played second in a while. He's playing the outfield and whatnot, but like, can he still play second base at all? Obviously, we have Holiday, but he's a weapon, right? With like a unique blend of power and speed. And then, depending on what Houston does and like where they are in the thick of things, that's going to mean a lot, because you got Tucker there that they'd probably think about, right? Bregman, Verlander. So, like position players, I had Arozarena, Tucker, maybe Tommy Pham, Bregman, Jazz, and then, less flexibility there, but like Rooker and Marte. All guys that I was like, those would probably upgrade a position for the Orioles down the stretch run in some capacity.
I love the fam. I love the fam call right there. That was good.
Yeah, I agree. Would somebody like Dustin? I see you got Paul Goldschmidt down in here as one of the biggest rumors on the market right now. Would that put Arenado on the market as well?
It kind of depends on how the Cardinals play. They're kind of hovering in that weird zone where we don't know if they're going to be selling or buying. I think if they're being realistic, they probably should be selling. But I mean, we'll see. That division's pretty wide open right now. I think the Brewers are in first, but I don't believe that that division is out of hand for any team in it right now. So yeah, we'll see. I mean,
St. Louis is like 5 or 6 back, so it's not too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, and a lot of people like the Freedy guy, or Fetty guy, and they like Crochet because they're younger, and I think they got a couple years control. I think, Sean, I think you brought up Verlander, who was somebody who was interesting to me as a rental. I think it also could be interesting for like somebody like Scherzer, depending on where they want to go. They're 7.5 games back in the West right now.
We're going to see him this weekend too. I think he pitches on Saturday.
Yeah, he's looked pretty decent, I think, since he's come back.
I'd be surprised if he got moved again, to be honest. Is there a chance the Grom can pitch this year or no?
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, Scherzer is going to be a free agent, I think. And if they're 8 games back in a couple of weeks and he looks decent, I don't know why you wouldn't. But I
Yeah.
think the bigger issue was probably him looking decent in a month. He's coming back from an injury and he's like finally hit a wall. But if he puts together a few good starts, I'm sure someone will want him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Brooks, I'm with you and Foy, and sorry, Brian, but Verlander, like I'm all about that, right? He's been there. He's been consistent. Like that's battle tested in the postseason, ultra competitor. I would love to see that, right? Like bring that in, stabilize the rotation with, there are a few studs in our rotation already, and unfortunately a couple that are hurt. But like Verlander, that's probably like my top. I'll be excited if that happens.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is I love throwing around names, and obviously Verlander and Scherzer, they're bulldogs. They kind of fit. They almost look like they chew glass. Tyler made, but they seem to fit the profile of what the Orioles are. That like Brandon Hyde looks like he is sitting there like chomping on like 18 pieces of gum. What I'm concerned about at this trade deadline is that we make the move that fits the team, because a lot of these guys came up together. So they've, as we've said before, they've congealed together. They seem like they're best friends. And so you don't want to bring in a Flaherty from last year who seemed like a cancer from what the rumors were. He was just a piece of trash in terms of like being a clubhouse guy. So I hope we make the right move here. The name that really sticks out to me on this one is obviously going to be Mason Miller. That's good, but you're going to have to give up premium talent in order to get somebody like that. I really do like the Arozarena thing because it also does two things. One, it bolsters our lineup. Two, he kills the O's. So you take that out of the equation when we play Tampa.
Yeah. Oh shit! Looks like we just lost Brooks.
Well, he's not going to be able to give his opinion then. Whoops.
Yeah, I'm kind of terrified by the prospect of the Yankees getting Mason Miller. That makes me real scared. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I can
Brooks
see
just
the
said
A's
his
holding
computer
on to
shut
him.
down.
All right, perfect. He'll be back on in a sec. We can keep talking.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about some of the Orioles players and prospects. Who do we think is like untouchable in a trade? Who do you think is a guy that we're not going to move? Obviously, I think Henderson, Holiday, and Brushman, those guys are obviously pretty locked in. Do we think somebody like Samuel Basayo or Kobe Mayo? Do you think we would move Mullins or Hayes? Do you think everyone's on the table kind of situation other than the top couple guys? What are you guys' opinions on that?
I
Given
would
that Brooksy,
think. Go ahead.
Around the horn again. Given that Brooksy dropped out, he was up next. I'm going to go in his stead. Obviously, Holiday. I think Mayo is untouchable. I think Basayo is untouchable. You can never have too much catching. We're probably going to lose McCann in the offseason because he is a starting catcher for another team. I actually think that other than those guys I just mentioned, I think everyone else is available. And then I'll let I guess Dusty's up next.
Nah, Sean, you go ahead. You got something to say.
Cool. No worries. Yeah, I mean, I think Holiday's untouchable. I think Mayo and Basayo are close to untouchable, but if you can get a stud pitcher under control for 3 or 4 years, I think they become touchable, as weird as that sounds. But I'm sure they've got enough studs that they probably can get someone really good without having to give them up. But yeah, I would think after those 3, like the Kjerstad, Dylan Beavers, Judd Fabian, Connor Norby's of the world are stalwarts. There's also probably I was reading an article the other day. There's a bunch of younger Latin kids that we've signed that aren't really in the States yet or are in Delmarva that, a team like the White Sox or the A's that are kind of in a long-term rebuild would probably be more interested in than like someone like Kjerstad who would be on your team right now. But if you're not competing for a few years, that doesn't help you a ton. So I think there's a ton of guys that'll be on the market. I wonder if the O's like pay a tax because they have so many good players as opposed to other farm systems. Like for example, I remember the reports on what the Padres wanted for Dylan Cease was crazy high. And then what they actually traded for him was like pretty low. So I wonder if some teams are just like demanding the O's give up some of the better players because they've got so many of them. But
Yeah.
it's a good problem to have.
Before we move on, I want to give one more thing that I should have said and I forgot. Do we think, and this is a question to the group, do we think that Bradfield is basically the Cedric Mullins replacement?
If he can hit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the same power potential, which is like a huge flag for me there.
I think they want him to be.
Yeah, he's probably still a year or two away. I mean, he's only in high A, so I would think we're going to have Mullins for another year, maybe a year from now. He's in AA or AAA and knocking on the door, but I think they'd love him to be. But I could see him being someone that gets flipped because he's just got his upside is really high if he can fix his swing.
Yeah. I think we're looking at a kind of like a Juan Pierre type in Bradfield. So I think we kind of saw that with Christian Pache when he came up for Atlanta a couple years ago, a guy who's just a complete stud in the outfield, who's really fast and just couldn't really figure out the stick. We'll see if Bradfield can. He's obviously still young and raw. So I don't know. I mean, I like him obviously, but I don't think he's an untouchable. I think pretty much like you guys said, I think Holiday, Rushman, and Henderson are obviously off the table. Grayson's obviously off the table, but I think pretty much everybody else is on the table. And we'll
Dusty,
see.
what about?
Do you guys think that Hayes or Mullins? Do you guys think that they would move on, try to upgrade from them, or do you think they're just too ingrained in the culture or the core of the team?
I think we're mixed. I think we're hitting that breaking point right now. I don't think they would rule it out for sure.
I don't think either one of them would have a ton of trade value right now, so it would be more of a throw in with someone. But like Hayes is up for arbitration in the offseason. I could totally see them non-tendering him just because they're hitting a point where they need Stowers and Kerstad and other guys to play. But I'd be surprised if they got moved now because they are both starting to, revert back to their normal selves, and they are such big parts of the clubhouse. But I don't think either one is long term.
Yeah. I think we're like you said, we're coming to the end with those guys, I think, unfortunately, but it's the reality of the situation.
Yeah. The other thing to consider though, right, is like those two guys are apparently close to best friends, right? And we're really high on Clubhouse apparently, which Rogers, you touched on earlier. And doing something like that with a clubhouse this close, I don't know. Like right now, I mean, we're 20 games over 500 after a 5-game losing streak. So, I think that's risky, right? For me, I think it's going to be more addition than it's going to be subtraction from the big league club. Even though we have some guys that, O'Hearns and Santanders and, some other guys that are in their final year, I think that they might try and just add to this club to try and push it over the edge versus like pulling out of a clubhouse. I mean, you've seen physically Brandon Hyde is like, looks strained when stuff like that happens. And he's like, yeah, the clubhouse is feeling this, right? Like, I don't think they want to do that. But we'll see.
Yeah.
And also, Dustin, I've heard you, first time guest, long time listener over here, talk about Westberg, right? And like how he's becoming people's favorite Oriole. I would think he's probably pretty damn close to borderline untouchable, right? Like coming into the year, I kind of thought they viewed him as maybe like a Bregman, and with more versatility even now, it seems. And you keep pointing it out week in and week out. And I've been asking, O's fans around town, they're like, yeah, I think Westberg's my favorite guy. Among Gunners and Adleys and Rodriguez and whatever else. But, I think he's right in that conversation. Like the whole rumor with Cease was that it got held up for Westberg, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we see now, like the guy's a stud.
Yeah.
What's Cease doing this year?
He's good.
Is he?
Yeah.
I actually
he's been really good.
I saw Tatis just went back on the IL for them.
Did he?
Yeah, they just swept the Nats, so they're like they're playing well. But they're one of those NL teams where there's like 12 teams within 4 games of each other. So just a big mess.
He probably went jet skiing again.
I mean,
The other thing
Padres
on-
are 8.5 games back. Jesus.
Yeah,
How does
the
it
other
seem
thing
like
on
that?
Untouchables. Sorry, Rogers. I was just gonna say, like, I don't know if Mayo is untouchable. He's not playing that
Yeah.
great at third. His bat is killer, right? But he looks like a corner outfield, first base, DH position wise at the moment. Now, I don't know, analytically speaking, what the O's are looking at, but like they seem to value versatility and like middle infield and that kind of stuff. Like Mayo might go for one of these like longer term returns where you have him for 2 or 3 years.
Is he basically the younger version of Ryan Mountcastle, going back to my Mullins Bradfield?
I think he's got a much better arm, but
Yeah.
but he's definitely like I think he's better than Mountcastle in the field.
His
But
power
yeah,
potential's higher.
That is a decent comparison. Like I think, like I see people on Twitter all day are like, "Oh, he homered again. Why is he not up here? Like, where would he play?" Like I don't see them getting rid of Urias, who's your only backup third baseman, and then just relying on Mayo figuring out third base in the middle of a pennant race. I think he could hit
Mark
right
Reynolds
now.
again?
Say it again.
You don't want Mark Reynolds again? Figuring out
What?
position randomly?
Playing third base with a frying pan.
The sheriff of Swattingham. I mean, I love that guy.
Yeah, he was so
I'm
fun when he
following.
when he
Bring
would
him
get hot.
Dude, he would just literally
Um,
flatten that bat out and just pull it through the zone.
He would have like one-handed home runs.
So, I
It
mean,
was fun.
I think if anybody, and I missed a lot of that because big tech guy over here.
Big tech guy.
If anybody, Norby's the odd man out right now, right? In terms of
Yeah.
like what
Yeah.
we would like him and maybe. What are your guys' thoughts on Basayo?
You can't get
Untouchable.
rid of a backup catcher.
Untouchable.
You can't.
I
Untouchable.
think he's pretty close to, unless you're getting like, a top end starter for the next 3 years. I think he's pretty untouchable.
Okay, so we think
Yeah.
he's up next year, and McCann's probably not re-signing, or maybe one more year for McCann, and he's up.
I would guess he's
I don't
up
know
next
if
year. I think-
Basayo's up. You
I
he's
think
up
I
next
think we
year?
get a vet. I think we get a vet still, but he's in the mix on like a late season, like just tearing the cover off of the ball, type of thing.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
McCann's definitely gone. So whether it's Basayo or that Blake Hunt dude, or some vet they bring in for $3 million.
And by the way, good for McCann.
Yeah.
He deserves it. He has accepted his role. Seems like he's always smiling in the dugout from what I can see on Massett and stuff. And when he does get an opportunity, because you know how that goes, if you don't play for 4 or 5 days, and then all of a sudden you get an opportunity, usually you're cold, and then you bitch about how you're not getting consistent at bats. He don't give a shit. He just goes out there and rakes. And also, once again, like I said, top 3 pick in the Hawkeye draft that we'll do later this year.
I mean, you just can't. It's hard to put a value on to how well he handles the staff as well, and he's been literally there to show Adley how to call games. Like, was one of his main things that he was brought in to do, because he's very good at it and handling staffs. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I could see him coming back for a lower paycheck too. I mean, he's talked about how much he loves it here, and it seemed like I think he was the guy who said, like, man, I'd play here for nothing. Like, it's so much fun playing here.
Hayes and O'Hearn have both basically said that.
Maybe
too, which
maybe it
is
was O'Hearn.
great
Yeah.
news. Yeah.
I hate to. I love that they say that, but I also want the person to succeed. You have a limited playing. You're limited.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not going to actually do it.
You got to feed your family.
Lifespan.
Yeah.
Obviously. I mean, no one's going to be David Lowe and hates it here, but and Brett and I know David Lowe very well from our Match of Mama days.
David Lowe.
The
Yeah,
other
David
name
Lowe
I
is gonna
wanted
be good.
to the other name
You
I
guys
wanted
have
to
any,
toss
like-
out.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Kerstad, right? Like number 2 overall pick, I think. But how can he play the outfield? Like that's a name we might see go, in the right package.
Yep.
Him and Mayo are like borderline for me as
Yeah.
far as like what they probably think. But I love watching him hit. I mean, he just looks like he's gonna rip it every time he steps in the box. He's like nice and smooth, relaxed hands, but can he stick in the outfield? I don't know. I don't know. And you talked about, I think Brooks brought it up, but Fabian and Beavers, right? Those are other guys. I'm not saying they're untouchable, but they're probably like Norby, Kjerstad, Mayo, Fabian, Beavers, maybe Stowers. Those are like probably the guys that are going to be coming up in these discussions.
Yeah, and somebody brought up a point too. Like, is Kjerstad back up right now to start heating up some trade bait a little bit? I don't know, maybe. Hard to say, but
Yeah, I'm sure they'd love to keep him, especially when you're probably losing Santander and you might be moving on from Hayes. And next year that probably opens, and maybe O'Hearn, so that probably opens up a lot of at bats for Kjerstad. But if someone wants him this July and you can get, Jesus Luzardo or Eric Fetty or like some starter that you're going to have for a few years, I'm sure they would entertain it. Garrett Trichet, any of those guys. I don't think Kjerstad is a guy that's getting moved for a rental, but if you can get someone for a few years, he'd probably be pretty enticing.
I've been pretty good on these call outs. Why does Heston Kjerstad feel like an Arizona Diamondback? Just like there's no rhyme or reason to that. He feels like an Arizona
I can
Diamondback.
see it.
I'll take
So I
Corbin
guess-
Carroll back.
I guess we got to talk about it since all of Birdland talks about it. Mason Miller, thoughts? What will we need to do to get him if something ends up going south with Kimbrel again? I mean, we've talked about it on here extensively. We're probably going to see another streak from Kimbrel at some point, where hopefully not. It's gonna ebbs and flows with him a little bit, I think, but we're gonna ride him while he's hot right now. But if it starts getting a little dicey towards the trade deadline, and we feel like we need to go shore that up a little bit, realistically, what do you need to give up to get that guy? I mean, it's got to be a lot. It's got to be more than what we're willing.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd love to have him, but I don't want to give up what they're going to want. And I've also read that their long-term plan is to move him back to the rotation, so they're going to view him as like an elite reliever now, but could be a starter. And I think, I mean, the guy's awesome, but his elbow is probably a ticking time bomb. I don't want to give up what it's. If I was them, I would trade him because his value is never going to be higher, and you're not a contender. But I wouldn't give up, 3 top 50 prospects or whatever it's going to take to get him. I'd much rather bundle that up and go get like Ryan Helsley or Hunter Harvey or Kyle Finnegan or, a few guys who aren't as good but are still going to bring a lot of value.
And forward thinking, what is Jose Bautista? Not Jose Bautista, Felix Bautista. He's got to be sitting there going, "Oh, you went out and got my replacement while I'm sitting here mending, trying to get back for you guys next year." I mean, now I love that duo of 8-9. It's phenomenal, but he's probably thinking like,
I think that
I think they'd figure it out.
Would be the reason that we wouldn't go after Mason Miller. We wouldn't want to give up, because if we wanted Mason Miller, we'd have to give up either Mayo or Kjerstad and probably at least 2 or 3 other prospects. And I just don't know if that's going to be worth it to them when they have Bautista coming back next year. Like Sean said, I actually love trying to go out and get Hunter Harvey. The Nats are not going to be competing. He's been pitching well. He's familiar with the system. I think we could probably give a couple lower tier prospects up and not have to give up Mayo, Kjerstad, any of those top guys to get him, or a guy like Tanner Scott, who's been pitching great for Miami. They stink. He is an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year, so they're almost certainly going to be looking to dump him. I think we could probably get that deal done with lower tier prospects as well. And I think that adds depth to our bullpen as opposed to that, that big enforcer at the end.
I got a couple of names I want to throw out there that aren't like really being thrown around too much. First, I want to throw out Tim Mesa. He's a great team guy. But
questionable character.
A Steven Wilson or a Tim Hill from the White Sox, both with 2.8 and 2.2 ERAs respectively. Or a Michael Kopech, who is a closer, who we could then either use him in the setup role or make him the closer and put Kimbrel as the second guy.
He's a closer now. He was a top starting pitching prospect a couple years ago.
Yeah, I guess they moved him to the pen a little bit this year, or maybe I just got bad information. But
Kopech.
Yeah.
He's in the
He's in the pen. He's kind of like a younger Kimbrel. Like he blows up with somewhat regularity, but he's a huge like swing and miss guy. Like he'll strike a ton of people out. I could see them like if they got Fetty or if they went after Crochet, maybe also trying to throw him in there because he's kind of a high end, got good stuff. I don't know if you'd want him to be your closer. Maybe you just add him to the mix of he got 2 runners on and no outs in the 7th, and you need someone to come in and get a couple Ks. You go to him, but I would take it. I mean, I think they're going to end up getting 1 or 2 bullpen arms that aren't necessarily like a shoe-in 9th inning closer, but are someone who you can bring in whenever. Like Hunter Harvey could close for you, or he could come in the 6th. Like I think it's going to be a couple guys like that.
I think you got to if Cano doesn't get his shit together.
Yeah, and that also helps him. I mean, if you can get someone else and you don't need to go to Cano every single time you're in a close game.
Exactly. Yep.
I would like to know this. We're not going to be able to answer this question, but how have the new rules where you have to face 3 batters affect how teams look at trades? Remember, you used to be able to bring in a guy to face the first batter of the inning, the second batter of the inning, and the third batter of the inning. You throw 3 different pitchers at him. Now you can't do that. I wonder how that affects the trade market or the mindset going into the trade market.
Not much anymore, unless you're really looking for a lefty specialist, which I wouldn't be looking for, right?
Yeah. No Brian Mattis types hanging around, just trying to get Big Papi out and then get out of the game.
Yeah.
I honestly thought that was going to hurt Tim when that rule changed because he was kind of in that lefty specialist role for a while, but he figured it out.
I think now teams just try and hold these guys for like pockets in the lineup where you see like 3 or it's not all lefties, but mostly lefties. Like Perez normally kind of mostly comes in when there's a few lefties coming up. He'll face a righty or 2, but if 3 of the next 4 batters are lefty, that's when they're going to use him. And you just hope he doesn't blow up and then have to face a bunch of righties.
Brooks, if Tim Mayza gets traded to the Orioles, will you do the podcast completely nude?
Sure. I don't know if anybody wants to see. I don't know if anybody wants to see that, but yeah. I think that's going to affect viewership a little bit.
Just keep the camera up top.
Keep the camera up top. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I give a shout out? Keegan Aiken is gets a lot of hate online from Orioles fans. Guy's been doing his fucking job, and so is Brian Baker the last month of June, call it. Guy's just been a bulldog for us and really covering up some other shit that's going on in the bullpen right now. So yeah, I think we gotta give them their flowers right now because they've both been tremendous this month.
Yeah, Aiken's been pretty reliable. I mean, he's had a couple stretches where he's been a mess, but I mean, when you're not an elite reliever, that's what happens. Like everyone has that. So he's been pretty good.
I mean, I guess 16 innings in the last 30 days and has only given up 3 earned runs.
Yeah, he's good, man. If he's healthy, he's dealing, and he can strike you out too. Which that like some of these situations, like Brooks said, I love the shout out because Baker too. Baker's been like a pleasant surprise. In fact, I wasn't really expecting it.
I don't think anybody was, but
and his numbers were not very good in Norfolk.
They were not good. No.
But he's always had good stuff. He's just been like he's either got control or he doesn't. But yeah, it's been awesome. Good for them. I mean, with them not having a long man, having someone like Aiken that can go multiple innings is just massive.
So been a huge help.
He's helped eat up innings and some blowouts, and he's also gotten some high leverage outs too.
And I think that this deadline is going to be addition by addition, right? Like basically, if we pull in a starter or 2, then you have Suarez is probably the first guy to go to the pen, right? And then you have Irvin, and Irvin's going to give you length. Suarez throws hard enough where I'd kind of love to see him in some high leverage positions, right? Yeah. Where okay, maybe we get a guy that's not a closer for the pen as well, but we just added 2 guys by adding starters, right? And there's a good list of starters that I don't know you'll have to pay so much with Verlander, Severino, maybe Fetty would. The other guy that I don't know we've talked to about so much, but Colorado, Quantrill, like he's doing that in Coors Field, right? Like now I know it's kind of an anomaly for him, but still, like ride the hot season, man. Like you take that for the run, right? Eflin is another one. There's like a bunch of guys there. I'd be pretty pumped, and our pen I think would get better with length or leverage immediately.
Tyler Anderson's been good too in LA. I wouldn't hate him.
Yeah.
If
you look at Quantrill's numbers when he was in Cleveland, they're really not bad until the last year. I know they DFA'd him and then ended up trading him to Colorado at the end of last year, but his numbers in Cleveland weren't bad. He was always a pretty solid pitcher. The problem with him is that he plays for the Rockies, who just are unwilling to trade their valuable assets at the trade deadline every year. I.e. Trevor Story a couple years ago when they got a bag of peanuts. They got nothing for him because they didn't want to trade him. I was going to say they got a bag of peanuts, but they didn't.
Yeah, and like the other thing that like it's like we're talking about this too, and like Foy said, like we see how good Jacob Webb is when we can give him a little bit of rest instead of riding him out there 3-4 nights in a row and hoping for the best because we don't have any other options. But like by adding somebody like any pitching is going to help rest the bullpen even a little bit. It's going to help. So
plus we got to remember Coulombe's going to be coming back in September too, and he's been our best reliever the last year and a half.
Is Suarez going to be big game Tommy Hunter? He just reminds me of him. Like there's just the way that just kind of the way he throws. Like I could see him going.
He's got a big ass, just like him.
Yeah.
He just kind of waddles off the mound.
See my neighbor
loves Anheuser-Busch products or tequila.
Another guy who we haven't talked about, but it's like I love Ryan Helsley. If the Cardinals were out of it and he's got 1 year left of controls, like if you could get him and then your back end next year is him and Bautista, that would be awesome. I would also, again, depends if they're out of it, but I think we'll get 2 starters, maybe like a mid rotation guy and a back end. I would love bringing Kyle Gibson back. If you could put him at put him at the back of the rotation, he's going to eat up innings. He's got like a 3.4 ERA. I'd love him even if he had a 4.4, like just a vet who's got a noodle arm, who's going to eat up 6 innings every start. Like they're going to get to a point. I mean, knock on wood, hopefully there are no other injuries, but like they might need help just getting to the deadline or getting to the end of the year. Like Gibson's not a guy who's going to pitch in October for you, but he can get you to October. So, and I'm sure they'll make a trade for someone we've never even heard of. Like last year they traded for Fuji. We didn't know who the hell Fuji was, and it was a couple weeks before the deadline. Like I'm sure they'll get some sort of starter or a reliever that's cheap that we're not even thinking of.
That's sexy. I like that. Yeah, that's sexy. I mean, that fills everything. Need a starter and fits into the team, was with the team last year. I mean, completely makes sense.
I don't think so. I would love to go get like Presley or something from the Astros, or like we said, Verlander, but I just don't see that. Hell yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I just don't see them selling because I don't see them being. I think they're going to make a run back into it here. I mean,
I think they've won like 8 straight or like 7 of 8 or something.
They're starting to figure it out. So I just don't see them being sold.
There's much less gray area in the AL. Like you're either in it or you're not. Like it's not like the NL where like everyone but 3 teams suck. Like everyone but 3 teams are in it. Like the AL is much more like we're going to know in 2 weeks whether the Rangers are in it or not. They're like 7 games out right now. And if we smack them around this weekend, they could be out. And then maybe like Nathan Eovaldi's on the market, or like
good point. Yeah.
We're friends. We're friends. Also, Dusty, I believe you're in your bedroom and if your bed's behind you, is that your nighty shirt, the Fuji shirt? What is that?
I'm sorry. No. It's the shirt I wore to bike to work yesterday, and got it out of my clothes hamper next to my bed.
God, I would kill to see you biking down Coastal Highway in a Fuji shirt.
Did Fujinami just ride by me?
Fun fact, like right before the playoffs last year, Hillary and I were in the team store on like a random off day, and Fuji was in the team store buying O's jerseys. It was awesome.
That's great.
And then didn't make the playoff roster.
Yeah. And then he walked 3 people on the way out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Electric
That's awesome.
Factory, that guy.
So why don't we
Another
go
guy
around the
we
horn?
didn't bring up. Oh yeah, go ahead. I wanted to talk about just 2 more guys real quick. Paul Blackburn coming off an injury, but he's only got 1 more year of arbitration for the Athletics. So if they're going to move on from him, I think this year or next year obviously would be the year to do it. And he's been a pretty solid starter. He was an all-star a couple years ago, and I don't think it would take a ton to get him. He could just be a guy who could stabilize the rotation, and also. This is kind of a dream scenario, but La Pantera, Luis Robert, who's been kind of mocked to the Phillies pretty much nonstop all year. If we could get him somewhere,
The Phillies need anybody.
somehow,
Christ.
that would be fucking awesome.
I think I'd love to have him. The only issue I have with him is he's always hurt. He misses so much time, but if he's healthy, he's awesome. You put him in center.
Yeah.
He's probably like your 3 or 4 hitter, and he's pretty cheap. I know he's on like a pretty friendly deal. But
I mean, he's having a terrible year.
right, I think he's only played in like 40 games. Like he's missed a ton too.
Did anybody pick up what's his name from the Astros when they DFA'd him?
Abreu?
Abreu.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
So he's just
It's
sitting.
a sunk cost.
He's been terrible.
Another Arizona Diamondback.
I would think
guys I
someone
don't
would.
want-
Like if you're not the the Nats, why wouldn't you pick up Abreu and see if you can figure it out?
Well, speaking of D-backs, Walker's name has gotten floated, which obviously is DH first base, but that guy rakes, right? So I don't know if there's really a fit in Baltimore, and we actually drafted him out of South Carolina
Memorial
years
Green,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah. Which he's blossomed elsewhere. But I don't know if he fits here in any capacity, but that's a big bat.
Yeah, I don't think he does. I don't think he does, but I agree with you. I think somebody's going to make a run at him.
I got to jump. I have a
Jack Flaherty.
I have a quick call.
Don't
I'm going
want
to jump.
Luis Severino.
I'll get back on if you guys are still on in like 15 minutes.
All right.
All right, sounds good, Sean. Thank you, buddy.
Later, doctor.
And then there were 4.
And then 4. Let's go around the horn here, and we'll start with Brooks, and then we'll go to Dusty, then Brett, and myself. What do you see us doing? Just not a player name, but do we get 1 player, 2 players, 3 players, and what positions do you see them?
Jack Flaherty. Just because Dustin was bitching about him. But he is having a great
I
year.
don't want his. He's having a great year. He's going to get traded, but I hope it's not to us.
Yeah, that ran its
What do you
course.
think, Brooks?
I mean, it's got to be pitching, right? I mean, that's our biggest need. We have a plethora of talent that we can bring up and down in terms of outfielders, infielders, however we want to play it. There's not really a huge need in terms of like offense. I mean, could we upgrade in certain spots? Yeah. I mean, you always can. I just think that obviously everyone knows the glaring need is going to be at least 1 starting pitcher and at least one bullpen guy. So I think that's going to be that's going to be our starting point. But I wouldn't be surprised if we added more.
Okay.
I think we're going to get two low to mid tier starters. I would love Cal Quantrill, and one of the other guys we've mentioned. Any of them. I don't think we'll go after Crochet because I just think the White Sox are going to want too much for him. Also, he's thrown a career high in innings already this year, and he's a guy who's on a pitch count. So I don't know if he's even going to be able to pitch into October if we needed him to. So if we're going to have to give up that big of a haul, even though he's under control for, I think, 2 more years after this year, I just don't know if it's going to be worth it for this team in particular. So I think – I would love 2 lower end starters, 2 lower end relievers. I think like Tanner Scott, Hunter Harvey, bring those guys back, bring Cal Quantrill back, and then see if there's another starter that comes out of the woodwork. That's what I'm looking for. I don't think the offense really needs a boost, but maybe
Crochet's on a Boris count.
I don't know if it's a Boris count, but I know that he's had a history of injuries. They kind of tried to lengthen him from a bullpen guy to a starter, which he has been doing, but he's at 80 innings this year, which is his career high, and it's not even July yet. So it's just a scary thing. Another thing to think about, I think, when you're going to look to trade for a guy, especially if you're going to give up potentially Kobe Mayo or Heston Kierstad to get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've been talking myself into and out of, how many guys are we going to bring in. I think we get a starter 100%.
I don't think we have a choice.
Yeah, I think that's a lock, right? Even though we could look at, there's 6 guys right now. The way injuries have happened, and Povich is one of them. You can't hang on a rookie like that, on an innings limit, most likely as well. So I think a starter's a lock. I think we'll probably get like three guys in here that, beyond maybe some like acquisitions through getting DFA'd or whatnot. I think we'll probably bring in 3 guys via trade, if I had to guess. And I think definitely one of them is probably a starting pitcher.
I like what you said earlier, Brad, about addition by addition. I think 2 people. One is definitely a starter. I think one's a long reliever. And then that way you enhance your bullpen by bringing in that back of the end or mid starter, and you put Suarez in the bullpen. So I'm going to go with 2 people, starter and a reliever.
Yep.
All right.
I like that.
What else we got? Who's starting tonight?
But by the way, this Vladimir Guerrero shit to the Yankees, if anyone, it's all clickbait BS with these headlines. It's like Vlad is open to going to the Yankees. The question was posed to him, would you go to the Yankees? Because he said previously, I don't know, 6 months, a year, 2 years ago, that he wouldn't go to the Yankees. And he said after consulting with his family that everything is a business. He didn't say he wanted to go to the fucking Yankees. He just said that he was open to going anywhere. But it's just clickbait BS from the media. I actually read the article. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I think he even clarified where he's like, it is a business, but I'll never sign with them. And don't quote me on that, but I read that, and I was like, okay, exactly.
Yeah,
you got me.
It's clickbait, but they got you guys, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They did.
I saw ESPN today. Who's more likely to miss the playoffs next year? The Lakers, the Cowboys, or the Yankees or something? Like, they always got to get the Cowboys and the Lakers in there. Like the NBA Finals going on, they got to talk about the fucking Lakers. Shut your yapper. Hey, and all of a sudden, the NBA Finals going on, we got to talk about Dak Prescott's contract. Like, okay, go F yourself.
It's an A block, B block, C block.
I'm interested. I'm really interested to see what the teams in our division do. I think Bichette and Vlad could in theory be on the table. I don't know if Toronto's going to be that aggressive in trying to move those guys, but we'll see. I mean, they're not going to compete this year. I don't think there's any way.
I don't think they'll move them in the division.
Turnaround. I don't think. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they'll move them in the division, especially 2 guys of that high caliber. But I don't know. I mean, we've seen crazier shit happen before. So, yeah. I mean, and also Randy could be moving. I don't know if the Rays are going to be wanting to give up any of their other guys. I mean, is Pete Fairbanks on the table, or any of the guys that are hurt on the table? I don't have any idea what they're going to do, but I'm interested to see for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, see you, Brian.
Yeah, tonight's pitching matchup is John Gray versus Corbin Burns. So I think we have the edge there. But John Gray's actually having a really good year, 3.03 ERA so far. Good for him.
Yeah.
Former Colorado Rocky used to get slapped around out there a little bit.
So we got,
all right, fellas,
John Gray. We got John Gray. Do we see Scherzer? Is he on the docket?
I don't know. Actually, I think Foy.
We got him tomorrow. Tomorrow is Scherzer and Suarez.
I'm going tomorrow.
So.
Well, you'll get a first-hand view of what he looks like.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. We're going to trade for Scherzer and Verlander. It's going to be sweet.
I'll take one or the other.
But, by the way, I'm working on Delhi coming on the podcast next week because I told him what our draft was, which is best foods for 4th of July, best cookout foods for 4th of July. And his direct quote was, "If you don't have a whole hog, you don't know how to celebrate America."
Hell yeah.
I hope
I wanna
deviled
give a
eggs
shout
make
out
the
to-
list.
Oh, he also said deviled
Oh,
eggs.
deviled eggs will be first rounder.
Love me some deviled eggs.
Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out to our viewers, plus Ryan Creech, who said that he watches every day. So hi, Creech. It's good to see you, buddy. But thank you guys all for watching. Do we have anything else we want to go over, boys? If Tim Mesa comes to the Orioles, I swear to God, Brooks, I want complete nudity or body paint. I want a full-on body paint.
I can do it. Whatever you need. Whatever you need, man.
We get someone to body paint your son on your chest. That would be, if we get Banks on your chest, that would be unbelievable.
I got a hairy chest, so he's gonna have a beard. He's gonna have a beard, or he's wearing a sweater.
Oh,
Oh, man. Ryan is the shark from Finding Nemo right now. Brett, thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. Thanks for talking some sports with us. Hopefully you have fun, and we'll have you on in sometime.
Hopefully we can have you on here closer to the trade deadline when we know what shit's actually going to look like a little bit more. But I know we have to do this now since everybody's doing it. So
yeah, no, love it. Thanks for having me. The pod's been great, and honored to be a guest. Thanks, guys.
you're welcome, man. And next time you come on, you got to have your little whatever Brooks says tech guy. You got to have the executive because you're known as the executive.
Ooh, all right, I will next time. Also, I
You
didn't
guys
get
know
a
this-
chance, but Roger, did you see this right here? This is Field of Dreams, by the way. If you
Oh,
build it,
yes.
I have it up.
Damn.
I've had it up. I know, and I was gonna hit Foy with it before I signed off, but next time.
if you listen to this podcast and you don't know, Sean Foy that was on this podcast has never seen Field of Dreams and will not watch it out of spite now. So if you see him out in public, maybe try to trip him or something.
We're thinking about making him Marco from Chipotle
Yeah.
and put him in one of those chairs with electrical things on it and make him watch it. If he doesn't like it, we just shock him every time.
I mean, you can't be as big of a baseball fan as he is and not have seen Field of Dreams. Come on now.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
But all right, boys. Thank
All
you
right.
very much. It's
Moonlight
been
Grant was
fun.
rolling
So,
over
Brian-
his grave. All right, see
Brian,
guys.
you do know Ligma though, right?
Who? Oh, get out of here. I'm not doing it again.
I almost had him again. All right. See you, boys.
All right,
Later.
See you, boys.